Perhaps the greatest international road race of them all, the Mille Miglia.
Classic cars in a classic race. The Mille Miglia, 1,000 Roman miles, began in 1927 as Brescia's answer to Monza's Formula One Grand Prix. It was an adventure for the wealthy, but everyone could take part as the race wove its way through villages from Brescia to Rome and back again. Over the 3 decades, Italian drivers in Alfa Romeos and Ferraris dominated the Mille Miglia, but it's British racing legend Stirling Moss who looms largest in the record books.
At the finish, just over 10 hours later, it's Moss who crosses the line to win in record time.
His record in the Mercedes SLR was never beaten, as the much-loved race was banned 2 years later after a crash killed 2 competitors and 9 spectators.
Tradition is hard to put the brakes on in Italy, particularly when it comes to the glitz and glamour of racing cars. Just look around me. More than a half century after this race was banned, the classic cars are back on the streets of Brescia, the start and finish of this storied event. The route's the same, the atmosphere is humming, as you can hear, so it's no real surprise that one of the race's legends is still so keen to take part.
What do you remember of those days?
Oh, I mean, I remember what you're seeing here, the passion of the people. You know, I mean, cars, you've got to realize that cars, the first car went at 9 o'clock at night, they did half-minute intervals all the way through to midnight, then they went at 1-minute intervals, and I'm 7:22 on the last race, and I was not the last. So you're talking about 600 or 700 people out there, many Italian hairdressers with Go Faster tape, and, you know, I mean, unbelievable. I mean, it is only in Italy because of the passion of what it means. You know?
Sterling, I've read that you never looked forward to the race. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. Absolutely. This is the only race that frightened me. And it frightened me because of course, I didn't know the road. I mean, you know, no way do I know 1,000 miles. I did have a passenger with me, Jenks, who would give me hand signals on notes we'd made before. But going into the race, once the flag fell, of course, then there was no fear. But before that, thinking about it, I've got to do speeds. We were doing 185 miles an hour, which was quick. And, you know,
with no seatbelts?
Well, I wouldn't wear a seatbelt, no way, because the trouble with seatbelts is if you have fire, which is very common because the whole of the back of the car is fuel, then of course you've got to get out.
Well, for safety's sake these days, the race is rather more leisurely, let's say. It's over 3 days, but the atmosphere, Sterling, hasn't changed, has it?
I mean, it is amazing how many Italians are here. I mean, people who don't know, you know, very little about motor racing, they all know the Mille Miglia because it's such a romantic race.
We may be living in austere times, but there is no shortage of amateurs competing for a place in this rally. Of nearly 1,000 hopefuls, just 380 have been privileged to get a place on the starting ramp.
To get a place in the race, quite frankly, as an amateur, you have to
push a little.
You've got to push a little, and you've got to have some cash, right?
Yeah. There's an entrance fee, and although these days you can do it with a fairly cheap car, because the rule is any car that ever participated can get into it. And there were very small little Fiats and Volkswagens who did that.
But let's face it, most of these cars are for boys with their toys, aren't they?
Yes. The bulk of the cars is
with respect,
fairly serious, and they're getting more serious all the time.
Yes, absolutely. It's the boys and playing with their toys, but the toys here are very different. You know, you have smaller toys and very big toys. But everybody's having fun, and the spectators having a lot of fun too.
Frank, she's a big beast. How do you negotiate the roads in an event like this, in a car like this?
Sometimes a bit heavy to drive, but if it's moving, it's okay. But in these very small, narrow roads, for example in Tuscany, it will be quite tough.
And the 33rd modern Mille Miglia is off. Becky Anderson, CNN, Brescia, Italy.